Like to say good afternoon to all of the brothers and sisters in social media land. We are coming on here just to make our brothers and sisters in YouTube land just to all right, King Jonathan. We just coming on here just to send some shouts out of thanking the brothers and sisters that have participated in assisting our brothers, assisting and aiding our brothers. We're grateful. We appreciate that. We thank everybody for their support. We thank them for the financial support that they have displayed. We thank you for the support that have been shown to the videos, and we thank you for the support of prayers and those brothers and sisters that have kept us lifted up in prayer. And we want to say that we are grateful. We're grateful on today. And so this is a video that don't have no name. All right, what's going on, cousin Danny? Yeah, this is the video that don't have no name. The reason when we do the videos, all right, how you doing, Sister Goodwin? When we do the videos and it's titled a video that don't have no name, it's because it's the people's video. And that means that it don't have no name because we don't have no specific thing or no specific direction that we're gonna go in. We just by the common sense factor, and by the we'll just move in whatever direction we end up going in. Good afternoon, my big brother. Yeah, so with that being said, whatever direction y'all want to take off in for a few minutes, it's all good. The last few videos that we done been stressing on the importance of exemplifying the Father's righteousness in this world that we are living in. We know that there is none that are righteous on the planet. There is none that do it good and not evil. There is none. No, not one. Not one single person on the planet does righteousness all the time and don't do evil sometimes. So, but we can exemplify the Father's righteousness along the way. So, that being said, we can exemplify the Father's righteousness 1 minute and then go on responsibility. That's what we're attempting to do, is exemplify the Father's righteousness. And there are a number of ways to do that. And so, we can't just exemplifying the Father's righteousness through quoting scripture and being able to understand what the Bible say. That's only one way. Okay, we got King Jonathan Carter. Read page 117 in the Essenes, Elder. Let's set it off. Describe. Let's see. Page 117 out of the Essene. This is the video with no name. This is the people's video. So whatever y'all want to bring to the forefront, let's do it. It don't make no difference what the topic is or which direction we want to go in. I just want to spend a few minutes on here with some of the brothers chopping it up. I want to see, I might be a little bit empty now and I need to feed off of somebody else. All right. So we got King Jonathan that wants us to read. You say your mouth failed? We got King Jonathan Carter that just stepped into the video. He wants us to read page 117 of the Essene Gospel of Peace. I don't know what we're going to find there, but I'm just about to read it anyway. And then, brothers and sisters, we can feed off of that. And anybody else got something they want to feed off of in any direction you want to go in, whether it be family, whether it be religion, whether it be whatever it is. But whatever it is, let it have some substance as it relates to bettering the life that we are living. So, there are plenty deep things that we can go into that won't help us exemplify the Father's righteousness in this life that we are living in. So let's try to stay in that arena where we can be practical. Practical. So let's take off reading. 117 out of the Essene Gospel of Peace. It says fragments from the Essene Gospel of John. All right. So this is coming out of the Essene Gospel of Peace. But this is a fragment of the Gospel of John that is put in the Essene Gospel of Peace. Just sort of like in the book of Enoch, there is a fragment of the book of Noah that is put in Enoch that gives us a description. So the book of Noah is not literally tied to the book of Enoch, but there is a fragment, a small portion of the book of Noah was put into the book of Enoch. And so this is the case here. This is the Essene Gospel of Peace, where the fragment, a small portion of the Gospel of John, have been put in the Essene Gospels. So let's take off and let's read. It says, in the beginning was the law, and the law was with God, and the law was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. From the far place in the desert came the brothers to bear witness of the light, that all men through them might walk in the light of the holy law. For the true light doth illumine every man that cometh into the world. But the world knoweth it not. But as many do receive the law, to them it is given the power to become the sons of God, and to the eternal, and to enter into the eternal sea, where standeth the tree of life. And Jesus, Yeshua, taught them, saying, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of heaven. And one man said, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born? Jesus, Yeshua, answered, verily, verily, I say unto you, except a man be born of the earthly mother and the heavenly Father, and walk with the angels of the day and night, he cannot enter into the eternal kingdom. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. And the flesh of thy body is born of the earthly mother, and the spirit within thee is born of the heavenly Father. The wind blow where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but thou cannot tell from whence it came. So it is with the holy law. All men hear it, but know it not. For from their first breath it is with them. But he who is born again of the heavenly Father and the earthly mother, he shall hear with new ears and see with new eyes, and the flame of the holy law shall be kindled within him. That's powerful. That's powerful. That's a good place to start, King Jonathan. Let's look and see what we got. Yep, so that's what it is. And so we're looking at that, and we something with this is familiar passages like we dealing with in the KJV. Only difference is it says in the beginning was the word was with God, the word was God. In this Gospel of John, it says in the beginning was the law, and the law was with God, and the law was God. So what is law? Law is still word, okay? So it's the same thing. It's dealing with all things being made by those spoken words of the Most High, which became law. And it's the key point. He said, in him was life, and the life became the light that was in men. Now, we're looking at the passage that we see in the gospel, in the book of John, in the KJV, where it declares that this was Nicodemus that came to the Messiah and said, okay, what do you mean a man must be born again? Can he enter into his mother's womb for a second time and be born again? That's not it. Basically, what's being said is that when that life that was in Hamashiach coming to us and burns and becomes light, he's saying is that that is the place of transformation. That is a place of transformation where a man is being transferred from a state of carnality and fleshly mindedness into the place of spirituality. And so once that transition have taken place, it's saying it would be as difficult for a man to climb back up into a mother's womb when he is full grown. It would be as difficult for you to unknow the truth of the spirit. It would be as difficult for you to reverse from moving from carnality into spirituality. Once you have done that, it will be as difficult for you to go in reverse as it would if a man could climb back up in his mother's womb. So it was bigger than just a statement. It was bigger than a statement. It was bigger than a question that was Nicodemus was posing. What kind of man? How can I enter into my mother's womb and be born again? He said, nah, it's not the idea of entering into your mother's womb, being born again. What I'm trying, the spirit of life have came back, it would be as hard for you to unknow that spirit of light as it would be for you to climb back up into your mother's womb. And those are some of the things that we're dealing with, because when we genuinely have that transformation backwards, it'll be as hard for you to go backwards as it was for you to just crawl back up in there. That's what we're looking at. So it does not mean that we've arrived at a place of perfection, but it do mean that you can't go backwards, because even your attempts to go backward, there's been a transformation that took place in the spirit, and the spirit won't let you go backwards. The spirit will start convicting and everything. It's almost like you having that transformation to take place. Now your ears are in tune to the spiritual things, and now your eyes are in tune to the spiritual things, but you still try to do some worldly things that you used to do. So you might end up in a car with some of your old buddies who that transformation ain't took place yet, or you might end up out with some of your girlfriends, and what happened is that their spirit of conviction will now come in such a way that you be like, oh, Most High, if you let me get out of this car, I won't never get back in there again. If you let me get out of this situation, I won't never get back in there again. You see, all the things that were previously taking place, now the Spirit have illuminated them to be pure wickedness, and then show you that you are in a place of danger, because at this particular at this particular place, if you don't hear the voice of the Spirit, you can feel and sense those things, and you can sense that you are out of bounds and sense the presence of the enemy. And now the fear grips you, because you know that your brothers are in ignorance, but you are wide awake to the dangers and everything else. And many of us have went through that. Oh man, if you let me get out of this, I promise you I won't get back. I won't get back in there no more. So this is what we're dealing with the Gospel of John. Is purely talking about that transformation process. In him was life, and the life became the light that was in men. One thing about the light, brothers and sisters need to understand, light don't have to chase after anything. Light don't chase after things. Things are drawn to the light, as it is with our life. As it is with our life. When that light is burning, people will automatically be drawn to it. You ain't never seen no light going out trying to find no bugs. Hey, come on over here and support me. Hey, come on, sit down and listen to what I got to say. Hey, you don't see no light doing that. You don't see no light doing that. You don't see that. When you see a light come on, you just automatically see insects and bugs just gravitate towards. Sometimes it be thousands upon thousands of them just circling and flying around the light, just flying around the light. Because the light don't have to. The light don't have to persuade nobody. When you have the light of the Most High operating down in you, the life of the spirit of a Mashiach operating down in you, you don't have to go out and try to persuade people about what you believe in. You don't have to go around quoting scriptures. You don't have to go around spitting Bible verses and all of that. You see, when you got that life of Hamashiach operating in you, then you know what? You ain't got to spit no words, because you're operating according to the words. That's what turns into the light. You see, too many of us waste too much time trying to persuade people about this or about that. Oh, you ought to believe this. Oh, you ought to come to this. Oh, you ought to come to that. Y'all sure this. And we keep this in mind because we know that the scripture says, he who sweareth by the name of the Most High, he is esteemed worse than a perjurer. That means he esteemed worse than a liar. Anytime you got to always be trying to use the Most High's word to persuade somebody, or, you know what, let me show you something. See, when them Christians and stuff, see, when they putting that collar on, they swearing by the Most High's word, because all of these things from an external perspective, they swear by the Father's word, because according to a religious order, they make people to believe that because I'm dressed like this, I'm a man of God. When you see that Christian with that robe on, with them crosses on it, hey, they swearing by the Most High's name. You understand what I'm saying? When you see our Israelite brothers, that's, you know, we harping on our fringes and our mitries and all these things, the sisters with head wraps, all these things from an external standpoint, they don't understand that they're swearing by the Most High's name. But baby, when you got the life of Hamashiach residing down on the inside of you, if you don't never wear a fringe on it, they can see that light burning brightly. They can see that light burning brightly. They'd be drawn to it. If you didn't never wear no collar or wear no robe or wear no church hat or wear anything that attaches you to a religious organization, if you didn't never put those things on and you got that life of Mashiach burning down in you, you got that spirit burning down in you, people will be drawn to you. I don't care if you was walking around in a pair of shorts with some cowboy boots, you understand, and a baseball cap. You could be looking like a fool, but if you got the life of the spirit burning down in you, people are going to be drawn to you. That's why the Messiah told us, love not with words, but love indeed. And that was a good opener for the video. Page 17 of the Sing Gospel of Peace. What else we got? What else we got? We know we got some brothers and sisters on here. Somebody else want to come with something? Anybody else got something? Let's open up something. Let's just chop it up for a minute. Chop it up for a minute. What y'all think about this world? What y'all think about this world that we living in? Well, there's some crazy stuff about to come down through the pipeline. It's some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. What y'all think about that Anunnaki covenant that we dealt with last week? How the enemy is just strategically just setting up all kind of traps and roadblocks. Hey, went to today to try to get the new license, because the last time we traveling, went to Houston, coming through the airport, they got a sign at the entrance of every gate that says, if you don't comply with this new driver's license, you won't be able to board the flight. Now, look here, 5 years ago or more, over 5 years ago, one of my brothers sent me an article from Israel. He said, Meech, I got to send you this article for Israel because they don't allow us to get everything out over here. So I'm going to send you this article. He sent me an article from Israel to show me what was coming. He said, this is what's coming down through the pipeline in the years to come. They're systematically setting up schemes to keep all of the brothers and sisters and the children of Israel locked in to America. He said, first, they're going to use it. They're going to start off by saying, if you owe $15,000 to the government, then your passport will be withheld. He said, but eventually they're going to broaden it. They're going to tighten the noose on that thing. Phone ain't ring all day. Let's see who it is. I'll call you right back. Okay, so yeah, I'll call him right back. So he said they're going to tighten the noose on that thing, and then it's going to eventually end up down to $1,000. He said, but that's only a pretext that they're using as it relates to passport. He said, but what's coming through that, and it was all in the article, is that eventually you was going to need a passport to travel from state to state. Why is that? Because many people can't get passport because of different situations that been set up in this government. If you got outstanding debt, you can't get passport. If you owe any back taxes, you can't get passports. And all of these things are designed to keep you locked in to a particular place. Now, today we went so that we can get our license upgraded, just in case that we had to fly and move around. Man, I got out there and I'm thinking I'm just going to go in there with my license, and get my stuff upgraded. Oh no, you need everything. You need birth certificate. You need ID cards. You need proof of residences and all of this different stuff that you need. And I'm saying to myself, well, dang, that poses a problem. I can't get my birth certificate. I had to order it from another state or whatnot. But I just look at what's happening and how difficult. They're making the changes, but they're also making these things so difficult that some people just gonna say, well, forget it. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't got nowhere to go. I ain't leaving the country. I ain't doing none of that. All these things are pretexts. I said, now you're gonna need a passport eventually just to fly from one state to the next state. So you know what's coming. It moves from the country level, then down to the state level, and eventually it'll be dealing with the city level, okay? So it said, well, wait, what was going to be next? The city? Well, you ain't got to worry about that because that's the reason why the highway system was put in place. Do you not know that the highway system was not just developed for a means of travel? The highway system was developed so that they can quarantine every city in America, so that they can be able to cut off the entrance and the exit from every city in America through the highway system. They can block all the exits, no matter which highway that you decide that you're going to travel on. They can shut off all of those exits. And so when they came up to start practicing on how they was going to do these things and quarantine the people, they start using the sobriety checkpoints as a means to practice quarantine and shutting down a whole city. They used people that was drinking and driving as a pretext to practice these things. So once you get caught up in a checkpoint, you can't get out of it. You can't get out of it because they already went ahead of you and they done blocked off every avenue. There's no way that you can go. You just there. You have to deal with that. So we just bring it to the forefront some of these things right here that brothers and sisters need to be aware of. Yep. That's right. The wall ain't to keep them out. It's to keep us in. Where is the wilderness, brother? What do you feel about it? Well, when Moses and them came out of Egypt, they went into the wilderness already. You in your wilderness right now. We are all in our wilderness right now. Everybody think that the wilderness is some specific place that we're going to end up in, but all of Israel ain't ending up in no wilderness. See, the Most High simultaneously gathering his people in all of the places that they've been scattered at the same time. And at the moment they are gathered and come to understand who they are, there's your wilderness right there. Your wilderness begin right there because the wilderness is all about purging. You see, you couldn't be purged until you understood who you were from a bloodline standpoint. Now that you understand who you are, now you have to be purged of all of the things that you have learned at the hands of the heathen. The wilderness is not I don't believe that the wilderness is confined to no geographical location. I don't believe that the wilderness is confined to no geographical location. I believe that the wilderness that we're in is a spiritual wilderness whereby the Spirit is now convicting the hearts of men concerning the things that they have learned at the hands of the heathen. And so that wilderness is about purging, and we are being purged right now. So that's what I think. That's my opinion about the wilderness. So when he said, I'll bring you back into the wilderness and then I'll plead with you there, how is he going to do it? You think, see, we don't have no Moses that's pleading from the mouth of the Most High with no people. We have the Spirit in the earth that's pleading according to the will of the Most High in our lives. Let's look at this right quick. Let's look at this right quick. Let's see if we can show you the wilderness as it relates to spirituality. The book of John, 16th chapter. We'll start reading at the 7th verse. Now, brothers have different traits of thought on this particular issue. So this is my trait of thought. We're going to use two scriptures. One going to be in the 16th chapter. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth, it is expedient for you that I go away, for if I go not away, then the Comforter will not come but unto you. But if I depart, I will send him to you, and when he is come, he will reprove the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment. Of sin, because they believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father and you see me no more. And of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. I have many things to say unto you, but you cannot bear them. Nevertheless, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth, for he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that shall he speak, and he will show you things to come. He shall glorify me, for he shall receive of mine, and then he shall show it to you. So when we start talking about the wilderness, our forefathers were purged in the wilderness according to the lust of their flesh that they had to eat the Father's creation. That's what coming through Numbers was all about, and the wilderness was all about, is purging the people from the things that they had learned at the hands of the Egyptians as it related to their flesh. But in this particular hour, okay, because the law of sacrifice had been abolished, we don't have that issue, but we have in all the cultures that we have been a part of from generation to generation, we have learned the customary ways of the heathens. So the Spirit is sent into the world that upon our wake up, the Spirit now begins to purge us. He will convict us according to the righteousness, according to the judgment of the Most High. He will convict our hearts and purge us of those things, those particular things that we're dealing with. And that's what we talking about when we start talking about being in the wilderness. And see, right now, it's every man for itself. Every man for himself. It ain't like when all of Israel was together back then up under the voice of Moses. Now all of Israel is every man for itself because the Spirit don't have no boundaries. He's not bound by time and space like Moses and the prophets was, like Messiah was. The Spirit ain't bound. He can reside in the hearts of every man, woman, and child on the planet. And that becomes their wilderness as the Spirit starts his process of purging and through conviction. That's my take on the wilderness. That is my take on the wilderness. Let's say Revelation chapter 12. Let's go there and see. Revelation chapter 12. Now, mind you, there are different traits of thoughts. I want people to understand this. So you don't take my word for nothing. You have to go according to what the Spirit is showing you. Okay, so here it is. Revelation chapter 12 is symbolic of the things that would transpire dealing with the tribes of Israel. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. See, that's Israel, and representing the 12 tribes, the crown of 12 stars. It said, and she being with a child travailing and giving birth and pain to be delivered. Build another wonder in heaven, the great red dragon having 7 horns, and third. Now we're dealing with the Satan and his schemes, as he would cause, and he drew a third part of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood. Now we're talking about Satan and his schemes and his attempt to corrupt the bloodline of the human race by causing those angels that were in heaven to now fall to the earth. It's a means to corrupt the women and corrupt the genetics of the people, as to corrupt the genetics and the bloodline so that Hamashiach couldn't come through there. He said, She brought forth the male child who was to rule the nations with the rod of iron, lest he be caught up to God to his throne. Oh, it says, and she brought forth the male child who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God that they should feed her there a 1,260 years. Now, when you start talking about 1,260 years, you are specifically talking about a 3.5 year period of time, which have not arrived yet. Okay, because we look at the systematic schemes of Satan as he tried to caused the fallen angels to corrupt humanity. That didn't work. And we see as Satan, the Messiah, coming, as he would try to stamp out the purpose of the Messiah. But the Messiah was, even though he was murdered, he was caught up and resurrected to the Most High. Now we go on down to Revelations at the end, where it says, and the devil was wroth. He was angry with the seed of that he couldn't destroy the seed, and he went to make war with the remnant of her seed. You see, we've been in the wilderness already. We've been in the wilderness and preserved when we were scattered into all four corners of the world, was for our preservation. If we were not scattered into all the different parts of the world, the Romans would have destroyed us in Jerusalem. We could have been destroyed and stamped out and wiped out there. But the Messiah's prophecy prophesied that we would be removed and then sent into the four corners of the earth. And that's a preservation period. That is the wilderness. You're in your wilderness right now, because as the Spirit of the Most High reconnected us with our identity, reconnected us with who we are, and now it's convicting and purging us as it relates to our purpose, and exposing us to all of the things that are corrupt and crooked that we have learned at the hands of the heathen. So I said that was a war in heaven. Michael fought against the angels and against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and they prevailed not. Neither was it a place found there anymore. And the dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceiveth the whole world. He was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Now I heard a voice saying in heaven, now is come the salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of the brethren is cast down, who accused them before God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. This is still talking about the particular time that's coming, because we know we're dealing with the 1,300, 1,000, let me see, what was that? I want to get that right. 1,203 score days. You're talking about the 3.5 year period. So in order to understand that 3.5 year period, they loved not their lives, and they overcame by the blood of the Lamb. When they murdered the Mashiach and he got up, they didn't do nothing but usher him into his greatness. That way could be made for the Spirit to now reside into every man, woman, and child that will confess Hamashiach as who he is, as Lord over our life. That the Spirit now becomes the convictor and the purger of us. But there is a time that is coming that the purging still continues, because this is our wilderness. So for 1,203 score years represent the 3.5 year period of great persecution that's going to come upon the children of Israel through this purging process. And we can see this right here in Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. And I saw the thrones and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness. Now remember, they overcame him for the blood of the from the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And here you see that these people or were beheaded for their witness and for the word of God. There it is again. They overcame him by their blood, by the blood, which is a witness of the things that Hamashiach done, by faith and by the word of their testimony. Now you're talking about a combination of two things, a combination of knowing the things that the prophets prophesied, and also a combination of understanding the work of Hamashiach and his purpose that gives us that testimony by faith. He said they were beheaded for their witness of the Messiah and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast, nor his image, nor received his mark upon their forehead, nor in their hand, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So that 3.5 year period is attached to this period right here, when these things are implemented in the world. And there was going to be a great purge and a great persecution. You're talking about your wilderness right here. You ain't talking about being in some desert land. You're talking about coming face to face. We're talking about coming face to face with the enemy, and then being brought to a place to where now you understand, you can have the distinction between what your responsibility is or what your failure going to be if you fail to stand. So in Revelation 12, it said they love not their lives. Why did they love not their lives? Because when the Spirit came into the world and started the purging process, they understood that this was part of their process. They understood that these were the things that they were going to have to go through while they were in their wilderness. And they got to a place, the Spirit brought them to a place of understanding their purpose and understanding their convictions, that they love not their lives. And because they love not their lives, they were able to go to a guillotine and be beheaded instead of receiving the mark of the beast or being ensnared in any of a number of different ways that you can be ensnared with the beast. I hope that answered the question. Well, you know what? New York passing a law to eat humans. Some of those things that we see, I don't know, some of them things we see on Facebook, they are purely fiction. They're fake news when it comes down to like laws or something like that being passed. But them eating humans, that's no new thing. That's no new thing at all. You see, the powers that be that rule the world, they have always ate humans. They are the children. They bear the seed of the fallen ones who ate the flesh of men and drank the blood of men. And those people that rule the world, they don't eat animals. They eat other men because in their psychology, they believe that they acquire strength over the world when they eat their enemies and drink their blood. That drink the blood of your enemies give them power. So they've been being wrapped up in cannibalism. And that is why those wicked people are indoctrinating all people that would receive the blessings of this world, your Hollywood stars, your Hollywood actors, your great entertainers. I ain't talking about just your mediocre entertainers. I'm talking about your powerhouses, your billionaires, your multi-millionaires. They're being indoctrinated because in order for them to hang on to the riches of this world, then they have to identify with the people that are ruling it. And so you look at Hollywood and you can go on YouTube and find these things, how they mimicking eating human flesh. They got cakes and food made up like dead bodies, like bodies of people, and they are eating and slicing the cakes and eating the food. They might make a great dish and it'll be in the form of a body. You understand what I'm saying? And they dig in there and this look like blood, look like a body tore open, and everybody is gorging themselves and mouths is red and everything, where they're telling you what they're doing, and they're indoctrinating the people that have come to be in this world. So cannibalism, it's been here all the time. And it's been an ever-known fact that the Chinese people ate their children. They ate the children to keep the population down. So they're selling babies over there. They're selling food over there. They're selling human flesh over there like it ain't nothing in the store. You probably go in the store in one of them and then and get you a dang on elbow or get you a foot to eat. So cannibalism, it's been here all along. It's been here all along. And that's why I tell people all the time, over 7 billion people on the planet, and they want to decrease the population down to 10%. They want to decrease it by 90%. And so when you go in these grocery stores, you don't know what you're eating. You don't know what you eat, because just like you eat a cow and fix you a steak, you can eat some chicken, fix you a chicken. You can eat some goat meat. You can eat some lamb. You can eat any kind of flesh you eat. It got a fleshly taste. It tastes like meat. You know, it differs a little bit, but it's still flesh. And so it's the same way with human flesh. You can't tell that you eating a human. You don't know what a human tastes like, but you do know what the rest of these animals taste like. And the flesh has similarities, just mild differences in taste and mild differences in texture. But you don't know what you're eating when you go in the grocery store and pull that stuff off the shelf. You don't know what you're eating. You don't have a clue. You think you're eating a steak. You think you're eating pork chop. You think you're eating something. But you don't know what you're eating for real, because you never seen them kill the animal. You don't know where the animal came from. You don't even know whether it's an animal or not. So cannibalism been on the rise for a long time. All praises, Gidron. Hey, Gidron say he finally kicked them cigarettes. That's good. Okay. You said, what about the 2 wilderness found in Ezekiel 20 chapter? We read Revelation's 12th chapter. Let's go look at Ezekiel chapter 20. See what you're talking about. See, I tell you some things that different traits of thought on. I'm just giving you my trait of thought. You understand what I'm saying? My trait of thought. I don't think that no people is going into no desert to be purged. When we was in the desert, we were being purged for fleshly things that we'll learn when we came out of Egypt. Now we're being purged from physical, from spiritual things. And besides that, we was all connected together when we was in Egypt. We was one family. We came out of there up under Moses. But now we're scattered. And Israel is scattered. But the Most High said he was going to regather Israel, and they wouldn't have no king. They wouldn't have no one person leading them. Henceforth, the responsibility will be given to the Spirit to deal with every man where he's at, as it relates to some of those things. But let's read it anyway. Ezekiel chapter 20. And it came to pass in the 7th year, the 5th month, 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders came to inquire of the Lord before me. Then came the word of the Lord unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel, and say to them, Thus said the Lord, are you come to inquire of me? As I live, said the Lord God, I will not be inquired of by you. Okay, let's go. Let's see what we got, where we can find that wilderness. Okay. He said, but I will wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the nations among whom they were, in whom sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness, and I gave them my statutes, and I showed them my ordinances, which if a man do, he shall even live. Moreover, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and thee, that they might know. See, this right here, you got to be able to draw lines of distinction between this. Hebrews chapter 1, God, who at sundry times in diverse manners in times past spoke to the prophets. In these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, who had been appointed heir over all things. In this is time past, speaking by way of the prophets, as they dealing with Israel coming out of Egypt. Coming out of Egypt, going into the wilderness to be purged, given the statutes and commandments, and also given to keep the Sabbaths. It lets you know that this is a different time period, because separated from time past going into the future. We would lose our history, our identity, our everything. You don't even have, no man even had the capacity to keep the Sabbath because he is completely out of contact with his heritage and his culture. He's completely out of context with the 364 days that Israel were governed back then. So this wilderness here is dealing with the wilderness when they came out of Egypt. But is what he say. He says, look, he said, and saying to them, the Lord, the God, in the day when I chose Israel, lifted up my hand unto the seed of the house of Jacob. I made myself known to them in the land of Egypt when I lifted up my hand, saying, I am the Lord. And in that day I lifted up my hand unto them to bring them forth from the land of Egypt. And I stretched my hand forth, and I searched. It said, man, let me get that. In that day when I lifted up my hand to them to bring them forth from the land of Egypt into a land that I searched out for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of lands. Then I said unto them, cast ye away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt, for I am the Lord. So that's why they were brought into the wilderness, so that they could be purged from the abominations that they learned worshiping the idolatrous practices of animal sacrifice in Egypt was what they were being purged from in the wilderness. This wilderness is time past. Now, when we shift to what Hamashiach done, Hamashiach said the comforter gonna come into the world. He not bound by time and space. The children of Israel didn't need the Spirit then. They had Moses, and Moses was how the Most High was speaking through the prophets, and Israel was all in one place. But in these last days, he's speaking to us by his son, who been appointed heir over the prophets and everything else. And he sent the Spirit into the world because his people would be scattered into all different nations, and no longer would they have a king over them, meaning a mouthpiece that the Most High was speaking directly to. So they would need the Spirit, who wouldn't be confined by time and space, that could now purge the hearts of all of Israel in all of the different places that they've been scattered. And that's why I say you're in your wilderness right now. If you can hear the voice of the Spirit's conviction, you are in your wilderness, because you're hearing the same thing coming from the Spirit that the people of Israel heard coming from the mouth of Moses when they was in the desert. Yeah, see, many people many people don't have, even though we use the scripture, if the scripture tell us that the Most High done things a certain way in time past, he spoke to the fathers by the prophets, that's because Israel was one whole nation. They were all together. So he spoke to the prophets, and then the prophets would speak to the fathers or the elders of Israel, because they were all in one place. But we scattered all over the world. So ain't no one person that's scattered. Ain't no one person in America. You might be able to speak to a lot of the brothers and sisters in America, but you can't reach the brothers and sisters that's scattered all over the world. You see? Because we're bound by time and space. The Spirit is not bound by time and space, but the Spirit will come in and speak to every heart. Like I said, hearing the voice of the Spirit is the equivalent of what they heard from Moses coming in. Yep. So that's how that was. Okay, what else we got? What else we got? Yep. See, many people talking about we going into the wilderness. What wilderness you gonna go into? And what was gonna be the purpose for you going into the wilderness? If the Most High ain't gonna bring no king back over you, what's gonna be the purpose? Or you going into the wilderness? He ain't speaking through men like that no more. He's speaking to us by his son, who been appointed heir over all things, and his son appointed the Spirit into the earth, into the world to convict. Let me show you something. Let's go to John 17th chapter. Let's go to John chapter 17. Let's listen at this. Now here's Hamashiach speaking. These words spake Jesus and lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, Father, the hour is come. Glorify thy Son, that thy Son may also be glorified thee, as thou hast given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as thou hast given him. And this is the life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. I have glorified thee on the earth, and I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thy own self, with the glory which I had in thee before the world was. I have manifested thy name unto men, whom thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them to me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatever thou hast given me are mine, or of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them that thou hast given me, for they are thine, and all are thine. All mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come unto thee. Holy Father, keep through thy own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou hast given me, I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. And now come I to thee, and these things I speak in the world, that they might have my joy fulfilled in themselves. I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but thou shouldest keep them from the evil, for they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is true. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through truth. Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also, who shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one. Now, and see, the thing is like Messiah said, I pray that you don't take them out of the world, but that you will preserve them while they are in the world. And you'll sanctify them through your truth. So we're sanctified through the truth of the Spirit, because that was the job. That was the work. That was the work of the Spirit. That was the promise, that the Spirit would sanctify us and keep us where we're supposed to be. What's up, sweetie?
You making a video?
Yeah, so
I'm gonna see if I can get $20 for my birthday.
$20.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get this thing I need for the kitchen.
Okay. 36 through 38. You ready to go now?
I can wait till you get through. What y'all
Where you
spending
going?
today? To Aldi's.
Oh, okay.
They got some kitchen thing I need.
All right.
I can wait till you get through though.
Oh, I'll be through in a second. We just chopping it up. 32 through, let me see, what was that? Ezekiel 20, 36 through 38.
All right, I ain't nobody.
As I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I enter into judgment with you, said the Lord. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the countries where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. Okay? I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. You see, that's what we're talking about. This is our wilderness. He said, I'm going to purge from among you and I'm going to bring them out of the countries that you've been scattered in. When we start talking about being taken, you see, the Most High is purging us of the rebels. He killing us. He killing those that won't serve him. He killing them. Let's just indulge me for a second and let's look. Let's read it again. As I live, said the Lord, surely with the mighty hand, with the outstretched arm, and with fury poured out, I will rule over you, and I will bring you out from the people, and I will gather you out of the countries which ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with the outstretched arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and there will I enter into judgment with you face to face, as I enter into judgment with your forefathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So I will enter into judgment with you, said the Lord, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the countries where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord God. That's why I said there are different traits of thought. Some brothers look at this as a physical, literal wilderness that we're all going to be in. I don't. I look at it metaphorically from with a parallel in mind, that he referring to. This is my perspective, that he giving us a parallel, and that we can look at when it was in the wilderness of Egypt. They were under the voice of Moses. How is the Most High bringing us out now? How is he bringing us out of the countries that we are in, that we've been in? We're coming out of the countries that we have been in from the standpoint of having a renewed mind. And we are coming out from the countries that we have been sprinkled in from the standpoint of, like I said, having our minds renewed and coming from up under the indoctrination of these different places. We are in the countries, but we are coming out of the countries from the state of mind that we are in. Now, you're talking about rebels being purged. The rebels are being purged out right now because they're being purged out through murder. The Most High is killing. He is removing the wicked from the earth that he prophesied he would do in the 24th chapter of the book of Matthew. He said the wicked will be removed from the earth. That means that these wicked, they will be brought out from the countries that they have become a part of through death, because they won't enter into the land of Israel. Now, only thing I'm saying, this is just a trait of thought. Now, some people think that it's a physical wilderness. But I don't believe it's a physical wilderness personally. I believe that it's a spiritual wilderness. And one of the main reasons why I believe it's a spiritual wilderness is because Israel is being gathered with no king, with no mouthpiece. He is being gathered as the Spirit is able to speak to the hearts of men all over the world at the exact same time. And that's why I believe that it's a spiritual, and I believe that Israel's purging is going on now. So when you start talking about waking up is all about the purging. It's all about the purging. It's all about the purging. And I don't know if people think that he gonna send some cloud down and everybody gonna climb on the cloud and just go back over there, and then they gonna be put in the wilderness, and then some of them gonna be removed. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen like that. I don't think that it's gonna happen like that. But like I said, that's my personal. I ain't putting what I believe on nobody else. There are different traits of thought. Some things you just have different traits of thought. They could go either way. But that's my mindset. And then you have to keep this in mind. When dealing with the prophets are prophesying about things that to take place in the future. Yet they weren't aware of the spirit that would be simultaneously gathering people and bringing them out of the country by the renewing of their mind, causing them. So when the Bible say, come ye from amongst them, it ain't literally telling you to come ye from amongst them and go move to another country. It's telling you to come ye from amongst them and the things that you have been taught that's against the Most High. And that's kind of how I'm viewing the prophets speaking of this spiritual thing, but the only way that they could explain it was by the physical things that they seen at the hands of Moses. Yeah, that's my take on that, King. You see, and I tell you another thing that's going to deal with that. See, Hebrews 1 is so powerful. When it say God who has sundry time in diverse matters in times past, he spoke to the prophets and they spoke to the fathers. That means they did it one way. He said, in this last day, I'm speaking about my son, Yeshua HaMashiach, who been appointed heir over everything. You see, it ain't going to be done the same way that it was done back then. But from the prophet standpoint, the only way that they could write anything down is that they had to use what they could comprehend. They couldn't comprehend the ideal that instead of Moses being there, bringing Israel out of one physical place of Egypt, they couldn't comprehend the children of Israel being scattered into all of these different countries and the Spirit bringing them all out at the same time. They couldn't comprehend that work. So they could only explain it by what it was that they understood. So, okay, King Woody Lawn Care. Thank you very much, brother. Yeah, I've already you've been sure. Yeah. Yep. So that's now so when we're looking at right here, Moses led the children of Israel out of the wilderness, right? Let's go back. We're going to parallel Moses with the Spirit. Let's go back to John 16. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go away, the modern day Moses or the Comforter will not come. You see, he had to go away because even he himself was bound by time and space. And he came to raise up the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He came to restore the preserved of Israel and raise up the house of Jacob. And not only did he come to do that, he also came that a light in Israel will become the salvation to the Gentiles in all of the places that we've been scattered. Now, he said, but if I do go my way, I will sit. Now I go my way to him that sent me. No, I backed up too far. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It's expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. But if I depart, I will send him to you. Let's look at what Moses did, and let's look at what the Messiah said the Spirit is going to do. And when he is come, he shall first reprove the world of sin. He shall convict the world of their sin, just like Moses convicted the children of Israel in the wilderness. And he will, and of righteousness and of judgment. He will establish the Most High's righteousness. Moses established the Most High's righteousness through the covenant. Now the Spirit is going to establish the Most High's righteousness by the workings of the Spirit that have cohesiveness with the covenant of our forefathers. And of judgment. He'll bring back and put balance in the place that it's supposed to be. He said, now I have many things to say unto you, but you cannot bear them now. Nevertheless, when he, the Spirit of truth, Moses was the truth of the Most High, because in that time God spoke to the prophets, and then they spoke to the children of Israel. But here it says, nevertheless, this is the Messiah's institution of the same thing, but it's just on a grander level, because we can't all be up under one man. It said, nevertheless, when he is come, the Spirit of truth is come. He will guide you. See, the Spirit now is guiding us. It is bringing us from amongst the countries, and the countries is representing all of the things that we have learned at the hands of the heathen and abominable things that we have learned during the place of our captivity. So we're no longer capped in captivity, even though we still reside in the land of our captivity. Mentally, we have left our captivity. He said, the Spirit, the truth is come. He will guide you into all truth, for he should not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that will he speak, and he will show us things to come. So that's why I believe that our wilderness, we are in it right now, because the Spirit is the equivalent of what Moses was to the children of Israel back then. The Spirit is the equivalent of that. Where Moses had all the children of Israel in one place, the Spirit has to be sent in the world, because all of the children of Israel are scattered all over the world. And so in order for us to be led and guided by truth, we can't be led and guided by truth up under a man. We have to be led and guided by truth. And the Spirit can lead and guide us by truth all at the same time, all over the world, wherever we at. All praises to the Most High. Thank you for your comment and for your outlook. And keep this in mind. I'm not saying that my outlook my perspective is the absolute truth. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just showing you another trait of thought versus that physical wilderness. Elder, why is it that the scriptures say our Yah will supply all of our needs, but yet you have so many of Israel in need? Well, he will supply all of our needs, and he is supplying all of our needs. One of the things that Israel have to understand is that when we look at Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, I know thy works, I know thy tribulation, and I know thy poverty, but thou art rich. See, many of the things that we're living in this world in, we think that they are needs, but many times they are not needs. You see, we are rich in the things of the Most High. We're rich in spirit. See, we might not have a lot of the things that we want, but if you living in a homeless shelter, that's the Most High's hand of provision. Your needs have been supplied. If you got to find yourself on hard times and got to sleep in your car, hey, that's the Most High's hand of provision. If only thing you got to eat is a cup of noodles, he has supplied your needs, you see. But many times, because of this world that we're living in, we get accustomed to things on an everyday basis that are not really required for us to live. When we start talking about having our needs supplied, you're talking about the need to see, the need to have oxygen pumping through us, the need to be able to think. You see, these are the things that really matter. And many times we look at needs, so we go out sometime and people fall on hardships and we got to raise money for them. Hey, that's the Most High supplying their needs, you see? So it's just a matter of how you look at things, And sometimes the Most High have supplied our needs and we just don't do the right thing with what it is that he have given us. So that's another trait of thought. Sometimes you just have to realign your focus and look at it from another standpoint. Well, I can't go into that. I don't know nothing about no Planet X. I can't speak on things that I don't know nothing about. That's right. What is that? Iana 1. That's right. By the Spirit indeed is why we trust no man. We can still reason for edification and uplifting one another. That's right. That's a true statement. All praises. Yep. Can you explain the difference between the watchers and the fallen ones? Well, the difference between the watchers and the fallen ones is that the watchers were the fallen ones. The watchers were the watchers because they were 200 that ascended to keep guard, to watch over humanity. But they failed when they corrupted themselves. They corrupted themselves and their nature changed. When they came here as the watchers, they possessed all of the spiritual attributes of what the Most High had given them. But when they defiled themselves with women, they changed their natural habitat. And they so it was a transformation that took place. So they cease from functioning in their responsibility as watchers. That means that they fell from their responsibility. So they were called the fallen ones. See, when the book of Enoch is talking about the watchers, he's talking about the angels that had the responsibility of watching over humanity. You see? And those watchers lusted and they defiled themselves with women. And so they classified as the fallen ones because they had failed from their responsibility that was given to them. We got anything else? We got anybody else want to drop something on there? Anybody else want to drop something on there? Well, like I said, once again, I want to give a shout out to everybody and thank everybody for assisting the brothers and sisters. And to mind you, if the Most High grants you to do so, let us start trying to be clocked in to our brothers and sisters that are in our surrounding areas. So that when somebody fall into a situation or has some need in a particular area, you know what I mean, they might not have to look for me way in Kansas City to make something happen. There might be somebody right there in their own area to make something happen. And we got another brother. If we got anybody on this thread that is in where is that brother's at? I think it's Detroit. Yeah, I think it's Detroit. With the city initials is INK, I do believe. I'll get back on there. I'll get on Facebook and we'll find out. We're gonna try to find somebody to clock in to some of these brothers that's rough riding right now. But even as we do that, we want to tell these brothers, if you rough riding, you understand what I'm saying? That means, if this ain't something that you're going through on a consistent basis, then there's some stuff that's out of balance. So like we said before, every time we have need, it don't mean that the Most High ain't blessed us. Sometimes we go out and do other things with it. I know I had needs, Most High be and bless me with everything. Then as soon as something happened, I need something. Well, you know what? You shouldn't, that's $60, I go out there and buy no dope. I didn't tell you to go out there and do that. But you went out there and did it. Now you ain't got it no more. Now you come to understand why I gave it to you in the first place. I knew you was going to need it, but you didn't know. So sometimes we can just make foolish decisions with what it is that we got. That's what the Bible says. That the angels slept with the daughters of men. And the babies were Nephilim. That's right. My Facebook name is Dimitri Milligan. TRI. Yep. So I gotta take my wife ripping and running for a minute. Shouts out, like I said, once again, thank all the brothers and sisters that participated and in helping our brothers. I know that the Most High's hand of provision that showed up in somebody's life. You know, thanking the Father, thanking the Father. They don't know I sent the money, but they don't know where it came from. So that's what it is. Them people are operating on spiritual principles when you do that. The Bible says, don't, when you go to do something, don't let your left hand know what your right hand do. And then you go and do it in secret. The Most High rewards you openly. Somebody gonna be rewarded openly, because all those people, every time they make a contribution, by the time it get where it's going, the people don't know where it came from. They just see the Lord showed up. The Lord showed up, and they run around that house giving the Most High praise because they sitting down eating good, or can take care of their business or whatever it is, and they don't know where the money came from. But that's what it means. Let your good work show before men, and then they'll glorify your Father who is in heaven. That's what the Most High want to see, and that is how we can bring men to glorifying the Father, by operating in those principles. All right, Shalom.